Thank you all for joining us. This is our first, we're going to try and do a regular series of webinars on CommCare. And we decided to do the first one on case management after we actually reached out to all of our users and asked them what they wanted. And so that's how we ended up with this topic today. But our plan is to eventually host more and more of these because we have a great growing user base. So today we'll be talking about case management and what case management is. And first I'll show you some PowerPoint slides, and then we'll actually go into configuring it on CommCare. So kind of an overview of what we're going to do today. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour, but we're going to have a brief general explanation of what CommCare is. I think most people, our users are pretty familiar with it. And then we're going to do a general overview of kind of the concept of case management and how it works. And then we're actually going to look at CommCareHQ.org, and we're going to go in and configure some of it. And I'll show you a couple of example apps that you can download from the Comcare Exchange and kind of use as a template or use as something that you show as a demo. And then finally, I'll take some questions and answers, and definitely feel free to reach out afterwards. So just kind of an overview of Dimagi and CommCare for you, and why we started doing case management. So Dimagi, of course, is the company behind CommCare, and we build open source cloud products that support advanced workflows required to strengthen frontline programs. So we really looked at this as a way of designing software that was both scalable and open for people. But the idea of case management really comes from the complex workflow issue that we're trying to solve. And there are other organizations out there that do these things. So if you look at cloud products, an example of a cloud product is something like Gmail or Dropbox, right? So our software, or CommCare, is hosted on our central server and made available through a public website. So there are lots of other organizations that do this in the mHealth space. And then open source. So our software is made freely available. That means our code is actually open and can be redistributed and modified. So this is really a key factor, or at least we think it's a key factor if you want to transition to government or local ownership. And there are some open source, we work a lot with things like ODK and Java Rosa and other open source tools. So that's a pretty common thing. And then also advanced workflows. So applications are able to track people and entities over time. So this is case management, and great. Hi, Mark. And what we're going to talk about today. So including complex branching logic and rules for messaging and things like this. So people like Medic Mobile can do complex messaging. D-Tree is an example of organizations that kind of handle some complex workflow and case management. So Dimagi thinks that we kind of sit in the middle of these three, and this is kind of our mentality for building technology. And the issue that we're really trying to solve is the paper issue. These were taken from clinics around the world, and I think often you go in and you see these stacks of information and data, and this is some healthcare worker or frontline worker tracking things in binders and binders and binders, or huge boxes full of information that are never really actually disseminated to the correct people, and the information is just kind of lost. So I thought we'd start actually this morning. I'm in Boston, so it's the morning here, though lots of snow. So I thought we'd start with a few quiz questions because you actually may know a little bit more about CommCare than you realize. So you can just kind of think of these to yourself. But the first one is, what is the name of the CommCare website? I kind of already said it, but your options are CommCare Central, CommCare HQ, CommCare Portal, or CommCare Home. And the answer is actually CommCare HQ. It's the CommCare headquarters. So there is both a HQ site or a website that you can go to, as well as a mobile component. So it's kind of split into these two. So www.comcarehq.org is the website, and you can feel free to go there now. We're gonna go there a little bit later in the presentation and start configuring some things. But feel free to go there and check it out and kind of pace yourself a little. So right now we have about 300 active projects, or 300 projects in 40 countries. These are some of our wonderful partners, but we work with many partners all over the world, and you can see where we're at now. But CommCare is both through partnership with Dimagi, and then we also have organizations who we call self-starters, meaning that about 30% of our projects we have actually never had direct contact with, and they go to comcarehq.org and they sign up and get going on their own. We have a great series of tutorials that you can use. So next question, CommCare can be used for, and the options are data collection, counseling, job aid, or all of the above. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that one. And the correct answer is actually D, all of the above. So it has different uses, and there are different mobile tools that you can use for frontline workers. And these are just some of the options that you can go through. But so CommCare does all of these. We can do data collection, just straight data collection. We can go through checklists and protocols. So kind of integrated case management systems for like childhood diseases is a common one. We can do program monitoring and evaluation. We can keep client records and tracking and do different types of counseling as well. And then also use SMS, so we can integrate with SMS and other external systems as well. So just to get into a little bit of what a case is and kind of warming up here again, one last question. So the most general definition for a case in CommCare is A, a pregnant woman, B, what protects the phone, C, a community health worker, or D, anything that you want to track or monitor over time. Okay. And the answer is D, anything that you want to track over time. So a case can be a number of things. We've had cases be babies or mothers, a house or a household that you're tracking. We track commodities. We call it CommCare for logistics. Kind of CommTrack is also a name for it. We can track a clinic. We can track a farm or a crop, a well, a loan. All of these things have been tracked, and many other things. So think of a case kind of as a broad definition. So again, a case is a record of a person or entity that you want to track over time. So the key here is that you're going back again and again to the same thing. And this is really the foundation of case management. And kind of as we wrap our head around what case management is, again, here's the definition of case management. So the process of saving, connecting, and referencing information about the case that you are tracking. So really, a case is something that you want to track, and the case management is kind of the verb of that, or how you track it. And this enables the access and flow of information throughout an application. So basically, if you're just doing data collection, that's great, and that's a simple thing that something like CommCare can handle. But really what it's built for is doing this complex workflow of tracking the information over time. It's the act of tracking a case. So just another definition for you, a case property is the information or the data, so it stores and transports case data across forms. So kind of like you have a paper form where you're collecting data on the phone, the case is transporting data across those paper forms. And case data are saved to these properties. So we're going to talk about this a little bit, and I'm going to actually show you it as well, because I think that's the best way to actually learn it. It can be a really tricky concept to understand. So case properties are loaded into the forms, and this just makes the data available for use in that form. So think of it as passing information across back and forth. So if we have a form, and numbers 1 through 6 are questions on the form, and we ask all of them, and the red ones we want to save to the case. So all of this data, the whole form, number 1 through 6, go to the CommCare server. And this is called form data, and this is all of the data collected in a form. Every piece of information, name, age, whatever kind of data you're collecting. And when a user submits a form, all of the data is sent to the server. And so if you're accessing from the CommCare website, you can pull down all of your data in an Excel doc or a CSV. You can see it there on the computer screen. However, some data you actually don't want to leave the phone. You want the end user to be able to see it and track it over time. So you can see 1, 2, 3, and 5. We're going to save that as our case data. So case data is a subset of form data that will be useful for referencing during future visits. So how do we subset that data just for the end user and let them see it on the phone, and let it be associated with a particular case. So again, there's a difference between form data, which is kind of all of the data, or we sometimes call this longitudinal data. So it's the information that's collected time and time again. And then the case data, which is really a subset that is the most recent information that you're keeping on the phone. Okay, so why use case management? And this is kind of a big, broad question, but I have a couple points here for you to maybe help you think about this. So again, we want to connect the data across paper forms or across information or across visits or interactions that we have with a case. We want to collect data once and use it multiple times in the same form or a different one. So for example, if I ask someone their name, I want to be able to pull their name up again and again, but really you shouldn't have to ask them that more than once. The same thing with a question like birth date or age. That's information that we want to see. We want to only ask them in the beginning and then pull that up again and again. So recalling information. And also to personalize forms for different cases. Yes, it will be available offline. I just saw that on the chat. We'll make it available most likely on our YouTube site, actually. So it'll help you personalize forms for different cases, and be able to recall things again like name and age for those cases. And finally, it's able to provide mobile workers with information about the case to aid in their follow-up. So if they fill out information on the registration form or early on, or even as they go throughout, we can remind them of what happened in their previous visit and really tailor to their needs. I think I have one more. And then finally, it can target counseling messages according to the data gathered about the case. So this allows us to do like targeted SMS to both the frontline worker and the end beneficiary using the case. So if a case is updated that they need a referral or they need immediate urgent care, we can then send an SMS out about that. Okay. So one more term before we actually configure this on CommCare HQ, and that is a case type. So a case type is the type of case that you're tracking. CommCare can track multiple case types in an app and can actually share the case types across apps and do some really interesting dynamic things there. So it's really, you're asking the question, what type of case are these forms collecting information about? So for example, is it collecting information about a mother or is it collecting information about a child? And basically a case type says all of the forms in this module, so we organize information in a module or a folder as well, will collect data for X cases. So really it's organized around this idea of, again, a form similar to a paper form, but asking questions on the phone is updating information about a specific case type. So making sure that we have that. We can do some really interesting, again, complex things when we're dealing with different case types, and we can have, we call them parent-child relationships or subcases, and all of these things you can learn more about on our help site. I'm not going to go into that, but this is a pretty important concept to understand. Okay, so now we're going to actually configure it on CommCare HQ. Hoping this goes well. So if you want to go to www.comcarehq.org now, that's actually where I'm going to go. I'm going to share a new window. I have to find it. Hold on. Okay, so I think if I do this one. Okay. So I think, can you guys see this now? Is this? Great. Okay, so you should be on CommCareHQ.org. I'm just doing our basic tutorial, which is available on our help site. So our help site is at the bottom here. And I'm going to show you how to configure that now. So you can see pregnancy is our module here, and we're in a registration form. And so if we click on the case management here, you can see how this is configured here. We're going to do it. I'm going to show you exactly how in a blank form. So again, we're in the pregnancy module here. We've configured our case type. It says example pregnancy, the name for the case type of tracking. All cases you register in this module will have this case type, and only cases of this type will show in the case list. Modules with the same case type have the same case in their case list. So it's a little tricky. We're going to go over case lists and case details as well. But if we go back to the registration form here, what we're saying is the registration form registers a new case. You can say it does not use a case, or we can register a new case. And we only want to do this if the answer to the question is pregnant. So that's actually a question in the form. I can show you that as well, is yes. So we can choose different options here, but we're going to say if the question is pregnant, yes, we're going to save a new case, and the case is going to be based on the mother's name, and the EDD is also going to be saved. So this is the estimated date of delivery, which is a question in here. So then we can save that. And then if we go into the follow-up form, so you can say that we've configured this to say updates or closes a case. So the follow-up form is going to follow up, and we can load properties in. So we can do something like load in their new EDD, and we can save it as EDD if we'd like. Or we can save the data to the case. So this is saving it as new EDD. So we're going to save that. Okay, great. And then if we go to the pregnancy module, so I just have this kind of loaded. Again, here's our case type, and we can configure the case list. So the case list is when you have a whole list of different cases in there, what shows up. So this is saying, I want you to save the case list, and we can add a property here. Like we could have a date, for example, of EDD. And we want this, we can change this as well. We could have this say estimated date of delivery, or we could just call it EDD. We could have this say, name as in mother's name. And we can do interesting things here, like set something as a phone number, flagging. Again, that's all of that information is available on the help site as well. And then we can also have the case details. So here we've put the case details as name and EDD, but we can add other things like the date that this case was opened. We can set this again as a date or leave it as plain text. So this is the basic place on CommCare where you're going to actually configure the case and the case management. So now I'm just going to show you a couple of apps on our Comcare Exchange. So if you go to Exchange on CommCare, you can see our Comcare Exchange is where people post their apps. So I wanted to show you two. I'm going to show you the Millennium Villages Maternal and Child Health app. It's available here, so you can download that one. as well as the simple CommCare tutorial, which is what I've been walking you through right now. So we can just download this one. Yeah, I'm just going to download it. And you can configure this one kind of on your own and play around with it as well. So that's how you download it. Are there any questions right now before we kind of continue and wrap up? Great, that's a great question. A project space. So I'm going to go back here. A project space is where all of the data for your project is listed. So if you look at the orange corner right up here, it says tutorial. So this means that all data collected from this app will be available here. So I have one application in here. And this is used so organizations can have multiple apps or multiple project spaces to keep data separate, and only people who are in that project space can see the data coming in. Connecting mobile app to server dashboard. So are you talking about how to download an app? Mike, I don't think I really understand the question. Yes. Okay, great. So whenever you want to download the app, so what we would do here is we deploy, and we can deploy it to an Android phone. So you go to the Play Store, the CommCare Play Store on your phone, and download. No one in my organization has any computer programming experience. Okay, 1 second, I'll get to these. Great, so, and then you can deploy here. So for example, I can deploy this to an Android phone. We have both offline and online install. Offline is designed for low connectivity. And then you actually just type this code in into the app that you download from the Play Store. So you download a shell, and then you set that shell to your specific project space. Sarah, yes, no one in your organization has any computer programming experience, but we don't have additional funding for a service package. You're able to create your own app. So if you look at our pricing plans, and I can pull that up right now. If you look at our pricing plans, there is always the option of having the free community plan, and we have tutorials available. So as you can see here, you can have up to 50 users for free, and then after that, we charge $1 per user per month. And so, you're able to get all of the basic features of CommCare actually for free. And we're more than happy to, we're trying to do more workshops and webinars and things like that to support that community. But if you go to our help site, there are wonderful, here, I'll show you the help site as well. There are wonderful tutorials that anyone, we typically say someone who is pretty good with Excel can get started on building an app with minimal assistance. Great, sorry, I think I'm, how does CommCare app capture consent? So we have the ability to do, I'll show you on the screen here again. We have the ability to do a signature capture if you're talking about doing like a consent from a user. So one type of question option. So this is our form builder. So you can see here's our mother's name and age. And if you go here, there's an option to do a signature capture. I think that's what you're talking about, but you can ask me any question if that's right. Is there a limit to the number of apps in a project space, Amira? No, there are not. You can have as many apps as you want. So here you can see I had a case management webinar one, and then also a pregnancy. So you're really not limited. We have lots of projects that are doing supervisor apps for supervisors or clinic-based apps. Okay, great. As in your example, what are preceding questions before answering whether pregnant? Do they get saved, and as what? So this one, we didn't have more questions, but I could add questions and they would get saved to the form. So let's add a new question. Let's add a question of, what's a good pregnancy question? I'm trying to think quickly. You put me on the spot. Where do, I guess we usually ask like a national ID question, right? And I'm gonna make this an integer. Oh, I have to leave that. I'm going to add an integer question. I'm going to ask for their national ID. And you can see I'm going to drag and drop it, so it's after age. And if I save this, currently the question, what is your national ID, is not saved to the case. And so it will show up in our data exports as a form data. If I want to add it to the case, I can add it. So I can add it in, or I can leave it out. It depends on whether or not I want to use that. Great. How secure are the data? Would an IRB ethical review board approve using this for sensitive data and or vulnerable populations? So yes, we have many research projects. There's information about our data security online. We are HIPAA compliant and comply with almost every international regulation. But if there's a specific one that you want, then we can get you information on that. But we've been used for populations all over the world. And the data is encrypted when it's sent, when it's encrypted on the phone, it's encrypted when it's sent to the server, and it's encrypted on the server. So we have 3 layers of encryption. But yes, we have used this for lots of sensitive data, and that is a great option for it. Okay. Is anyone using CommCare to track Ebola in West Africa? Yes. Millennium Villages Project, or the Earth Institute, is currently using it in Ebola. And I believe if you go to our blog, there's a couple of great articles that have recently come out. Okay, from Sarah, is it possible to have dashboards to view the data? So we are currently working on they're called usable configurable dashboards, but you can also look at the reports that we have. So we have some really great reports. My favorite is called the Worker Activity Report. And then one very common thing that people do on our help site is they build Excel dashboards as well. But we do have, currently it's in kind of a pilot phase, but we're creating user configurable reports. Okay, so from Ruben, if I have to deploy 2 or more versions from the same case, I am informed that another field is required for pregnancy, like do you have more kids? Should I have to uninstall, install? Okay, so Ruben, if you're using Android, you just have to update the app. If you're using Java, you have to like reinstall it. So it really depends on what phone you're using, but for Android, no, you don't have to reinstall, you just have to do an update of the app. Great, does CommCare integrate to third-party systems to share the data collected from Souls? I hope I'm pronouncing everyone's names right as well. Yes, so we have a series of open APIs that are available. We have integrated with OpenMRS, DHIS2 in some countries, and we're, as part of the MoTech suite, we're kind of a big push in interoperability layers. Vecna Cares is using CommCare for Ebola tutorials for health workers in Nigeria. Awesome, great to hear. Great job, Vecna. Please clarify, once data is entered into a form, is a report automatically generated? Yes, so if we go to, again, we have on our reporting, we have form submissions that can come in. So it tells you the number of forms automatically in reporting, and then all data can be exported. So you can go and you can export the forms. You can export them into, like all of the data shows up in an Excel document. Is it possible to count how many times a case has been referred based on case property? Say every time a person is referred, I want to update some case property. Yes. So that's kind of the basis for this. You can use a count function to do that. But not only do we know from like every follow-up form that's filled out, but we can add something into the follow-up form. So if you have a question like, is this person referred? We can actually go in and add that now. Has this person been referred, yes or no? Here we go. So you can see this is asking like about tetanus questions, but we could add a question, refer to clinic, right? Um, so I'm just adding yes or no. I hope this answers your question a little bit. So you could just add this question in, and then we would just save this question to the case. And then we can actually go in and trigger a reminder. We can trigger a message saying that so-and-so has been referred to the clinic. Please follow up with them. So we use this a lot. So again, I would just add in that question, and then I would configure it on the case management of this app. So I would save to the case. Did you refer this person to the clinic? And that could be saved. I hope that's answering your question. Okay, great. Is it possible to count how many times a case has been referred to based on a case property? Great. So every time a person is referred, I want to update some case property. Would you show how to concat two string values? All right. So these are actually pretty tough questions and pretty specific. And another great option is to email our mailing list. So I'm pointing to it at the bottom here. We have a Google group with most of our users on it and all of our software team, and they answer these questions. But yes, so we can do account. And how you would do this is actually, I'm going to pull up the common logic here. So this is my favorite page on our help site. It's the common logic and calculations. So if you look here, it goes through pretty much everything you could want. So we could say linking between forms, and it explains more about case management. Or for example, concatenate, which was just asked, like, can you concat two strings? So here it shows you how to concat. Wait, where did I go? Did I go back up to concatenate? Concatenate. So here's actually what it is for concatenating. So we would concat two strings like that. Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy, for sending that link out. Any other questions? Great. So I was planning on showing you what the app looks like in CommCare as well, and doing it, on the phone as well, so we can see what it looks like on the phone whenever I'm talking about a case list and a case. A case detail screen. So, so I'm gonna see if this pops up as well. So I'm actually using a software tool called Bluestacks here, which you can download. Again, the information is available on our help site for using Bluestacks. Did it pop up? Okay. So as we go in, this is that same app. Here's the pregnancy module. Here's the registration. And here's what it looks like. So I'm actually going to use my sister, Emily, as an example because she's about 8 months pregnant right now. And she is, you can see here's how the questions look, and I'm swiping through. So she is pregnant. And she is due on March 16th. So then if we go back in and we do a follow-up, and it crashed on me. Sorry. Hold on one second. Could you type here how this is? Hi, Ruben. I don't think I understand your question. Can you type here how is called this application you're using right now? Oh, Bluestacks. Yes, I can give you the example from our help site. So if you go to the help site, so on this site here, I'm going to throw the link in for you. It's how to demo CommCare on your computer, and Bluestacks is what I am using there. Great. It was working a second ago. Bluestacks can be kind of finicky. It's a free site that doesn't always work as well as I'd like it to. Let's see if it goes for me again. No, it crashed. Okay. It was working a second ago. But what I can do is actually show you how to uninstall it and reinstall it. Okay. Okay, so this is the deploy page. So here we download it to Android app, and I'm going to actually just copy this. I'm bringing Bluestacks back over. This is what it looks like when you download. So we're going to enter this URL. And it'll download. We're going to wait a second as it downloads CommCare onto Bluestacks. So Bluestacks is just projecting what it would look like. JSON links from CommCare to provide to other systems as a data feed. I don't really understand what you're talking about. That's a great question for the Google group, though. If you want to send that out with a more thorough question, I think we could definitely answer that. I mean, we have open APIs, and we can also use, we've done like URL links as well. And we have something called the data export tool, which we use for linking to other systems. So again, I'm going to type this in. I'm going to log in as a user. I created a user one test. I missed the T, so it wouldn't let me log in. So it's right now it's syncing with the server, and it's going and pulling down all of test data information. So are there any other questions as we just kind of wrap up? I think we're going to be done a little bit early, but didn't want to take too much of your time. And just to kind of give you a last few information as we wait for that to set up. So again, you can always go to www.comcarehq.org and get started. And then here's kind of some more information as you go through things. The first is the website. Again, you can do it for free. You can email webinars@dimagi.com if you have a request for a webinar or you want information on future webinars. For tutorials and more information, you can go to our help site. And then there's my personal email if you'd like to reach out. What is app call out typically used for? Yeah, so an app call out is basically, one second, let me get out of here and I'll pull it up for you on our help site as well. An app call out is used for for linking to other applications. I most recently have used it to link with Biometric, which is an app for fingerprint scanning integration. Let's see what shows up here. Android call out. It should be on our help site somewhere. I actually don't know where it is exactly at this moment, but I could show you it on here. So what it looks like is you'd add that in like that as a question, and then you would configure it for a call out. So again, this is used for integrating with other apps. Another example of that is we're doing something with a peak flow meter. We're also integrating with there's a really great one that's been done with timing children who have pneumonia, doing the correct breath rates. So really like a tiny link into another app. Jeremy, do you know if we have the link to it on the on the help site? I'm not really sure where that's at. It should be available here on the question type. There we go. He sent it out for you. Okay, let's see if Bluestacks is going to work for me. Okay, so back in here. And that's crashing for some reason. And it was not a couple minutes ago. Again, so this is just what it looks like. I'm sorry that this isn't working. I don't really know why. I can try one other thing quickly to see what happens. Any other questions? Okay, are there any systems to help us track and improve CHW performance? So again, if we go back to the reports here, the reports, the worker activity report is a great example of this, but these all are looking at your frontline workers and their performance and how often they're using the app. For example, this one doesn't have any data in it because I'm working on a test domain, a tutorial domain to show you this, or project space, sorry. But it will show you all of the information for all of your users. Okay, if in field and don't have wireless access, can you save records to mobile, send many records after you get back to a wireless connection? Yes, so you can go ahead and use CommCare offline on the phone, and then as soon as you get connectivity, you can send it either over a data network or over wireless. When would you share a similar tutorial on case sharing? I think if you email webinars at Dimagi, we'd be happy to take that request. It's definitely one that we're interested in doing. So for example, this gives you the number of forms submitted by each user, the last form submission, and cases created in the worker activity. Okay. I think we're going to be done because Bluestacks has crashed on me, and I don't know why, but it's an option, and you can definitely go, and I highly recommend downloading from the Comcare Exchange, either the Millennium Villages app or or any of these other fantastic apps that are on here as a way of learning more. So thank you guys all for attending our first official Dimagi CommCare webinar. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Feel free again to email out if you have any questions or would like more information. I'll bring that slide back up. Thank you.